Everyone. It's good to have everyone out with us tonight. If you're worshiping with us from home, we're also glad that you're here. Our first song tonight will be I Need Thee Every Hour. When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. I Need Thee Every Hour will be the second song. And we'll sing the first, second, and last verses. When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. When I survey the I Need Thee Every Hour. Song invitation will be Why Not Tonight? Why Not Tonight? I need thee every hour, most gracious Lord. No tender voice like thine can meet us afford. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee, oh bless me now, my Savior, I come to thee. I need thee every hour, most holy one. Oh, make me thine indeed, thou blessed Son. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee.
Good evening, everybody. Our thought tonight is going to come from Psalm chapter 100, verse 3. Psalm 100 and verse 3. Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and not we ourselves. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. I thought about this passage a little bit today as I was thinking about who do we belong to? Who do we belong to? What is our nature of our existence, and in what ways who serves who? Is it God that serves us, in which we go about our lives and God is just continually helping us and giving us and giving us and giving us? Or is it that we are actually here to benefit and to do what God desires, and that we give and give and give to God? You can obviously tell that the second one, us giving to God, has really kind of backtracked through time in the more recent history. We've lost a lot of our faith in this country. We've lost a lot of Christian principles and how people act and how people treat each other. There's a lot of times where people don't even want to acknowledge that there is a God, let alone that He rules over us. And I think I was on Facebook today, and Justin Pinnell, he is a preacher in this area. I believe he preached at Sherrod. He had this quote from one of his devotionals, and I liked it so much that I stole it. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm a thief in this way. All right. But it said this: "It is no coincidence that as the fear of God has decreased in our society, all the other fears have increased." And I think that's important, and I think it's interesting to think about how right it is that the more that God has exited out of the world and out of our minds and out of schools and out of governments and out of even relationships and how we deal with one another, that it supposes that all of the things that we fear, all of the things that happen to us, all the things that we're worried about happening to us, tend to increase and tend to become more apparent. Loneliness, depression. We're afraid of how people might treat us, that they might treat us poorly, and when God leaves and there's no accountability from a higher being, that's obviously true, that they will hurt us. But I think what's so important about Psalm 103, and if you'll go back with me there, Psalm 100, verse 3, is that this psalm, especially in this verse, is all about God. And it's all about God and how we belong to God. The New King James has it a little bit differently here. At the very middle of the verse, it says, "It is He who has made us, and not we ourselves." And there's a little bit of a difference here. Sometimes, actually, it's in the very Hebrew itself that there is a reading that might be like an error, that it looks like that it's been written wrong or something. And so they're trying to fix it, and they're trying to say, well, what does this mean? And there's one way of reading it, and that is that we are not, and not we ourselves, meaning like we didn't create ourselves. And then there's another way of reading it that you might find in somewhere like an NIV or an ESV or something along those lines, that it might say, "It is He who made us, we are His." And it's all about belong. It's all about that it's not about us that we made ourselves. It's not about us that we belong to ourselves. It's actually that we belong to God. The relationship begins when we acknowledge that it is not us who stand by ourselves, but it is God who stands us up. It is God who has created us. It is God who made us. We belong to Him. That's the first part of the relationship. Yes, we can have the possession of God. We can take Him and have Him in our lives, that we carry Him with us in our inward being, that we can think about Him and have His presence with us. But the relationship should always know where it begins. And that is because God created us. And here in this church, He has rescued us and He has saved us. And with that comes a proper fear of Him. With that comes an understandable fear of our Creator and what He can do to us. Not to fear those who can just kill the body, but to fear Him who could cast both the body and the soul into hell. And I think tonight, as we think about this fear of God decreasing, I think it's important that when we establish that we need fear of God, we establish that we are God's creation. So the fear of Him actually should come from the same way that a pot would fear a potter who would be able to break the pot with his very own hands, just as He created them. And so tonight we might have that place messed up in our brains. It might be that we have come here tonight thinking, I'm waiting for God to serve me. I'm waiting for God to give me what I need. I'm ready for God to give me everything that I ask for. When instead we should have come tonight on a Wednesday night in our worship in our Bible class that we have come together to give God everything that we have. Even if that is our broken and weary spirits because Tuesday and Monday kicked us while we were down. We still bring our everything. And you have an ability tonight, you have an opportunity tonight to bring your everything to God right here and right now. It might not seem like much, but I think it takes a lot of courage to come forward. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of throwing away fear to come forward and to say that I've done wrong. And not just to say that I've done wrong, but to actually purposefully admit to the church, man, I've struggled with this thing. I've struggled with this fear or with this anger. I've struggled with this problem, and I desperately need God's help to be there for me. That tonight we have an opportunity to put the fear of God back into our brains, back into ourselves, and it is then that we will build our wisdom. It is then when we will know what kind of God that we serve. Maybe tonight you need to be baptized. Whatever you need, we're here for you. As together we stand and as we sing.
Oh, do not let the word depart.